Welcome into Locked On Phillies. The Phils take down the Reds again. It's a series win, and they'll go for the sweep today. Plus, an encouraging Bryce Harper update. All that on today's Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I am your host, Connor Thomas. Not only have I been talking Phillies baseball for years over on 97.5 The Fanatic on the radio, NBC Sports Philadelphia on the television, but former collegiate and semi-pro baseball player myself, well, pitcher. If you count pitchers as baseball players, I know some position players won't, but spent my whole life around the game, and I'm happy to be here with you as your host of Locked On Phillies. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And the Philadelphia Phillies have won another series. They bounced back from a tough series against the New York Mets this past weekend to take 3 of the first 3 games against the Cincinnati Reds. They have a chance tonight to go for the sweep. That game will be at 7:05. And in the second segment today, we will preview that upcoming game with the Phillies a chance to sweep on a Thursday night baseball game. But let's talk about what happened last night, both with the Philadelphia Phillies, and we'll have a little update later in the program about something happening in the minor leagues. Shocker. Yeah, it's Bryce Harper. We'll discuss. But let's start with last night's game. Christopher Sanchez started on the mound for the Philadelphia Phillies. TJ Zoik started for the Cincinnati Reds, and Sanchez was the significantly better of the two pitchers. Now, he did allow the first run. A Fairchild homer to center field for the Cincinnati Reds got the scoring started in the top of the second. That was off Christopher Sanchez. That ball was hit very, very well. And hey, it happens. It's a spot start for Christopher Sanchez. He's not a guy that's going to be in the rotation come playoff time. He's not even totally a major league caliber arm yet. But you got good enough from him, more than good enough from him in last night's contest, rather. But Christopher Sanchez gives up that home run, and I'll say it again, because this is a calling card of the Phillies this year and every great team in the history of baseball. When the opposition scores in the next frame, you answer back, and you either match them or you one-up them. And the Phillies would one-up the Cincinnati Reds in the bottom of the second. Matt Vierling had an RBI single to left field, scoring Jean Segura. Nick Maton would move up to second base. And then Rhys Hoskins grounded into a fielder's choice to second, scoring Nick Maton. And it moved up Matt Vierling to third. So Kyle Schwarber got out at second. Rhys Hoskins beat out a double play ball that would have been a tough turn for the Cincinnati defense. And just like that, it is 2-1 in favor of your Philadelphia Phillies. Christopher Sanchez had a shutdown inning in the top of the third. And then in the bottom of the third, well, the Phillies broke this one all the way open. They scored all the extra runs they would need to in the third inning. JT Realmuto started off with a solo homer to left field. Then Kyle Schwarber walked with the bases loaded. Bryson Stott was on third. Matt Vierling was on second. Jean Segura was on second. Matt Vierling was on first. Bryson Stott was on third. And Kyle Schwarber walked in that at bat, scoring Bryson Stott, moving Matt Vierling up to second base and Segura up to third. Then Rhys Hoskins walks in the next at bat, scoring Jean Segura, moving Matt Vierling to third and moving Kyle Schwarber to second. So a couple of those runs walked in by TJ Zoik. And then Alec Bohm would single to right field, scoring Matt Vierling and making the game a firm 6-1. So 4 runs scored there in the bottom of the third inning. Then the Reds would get out of it, but TJ Zoik's night was done as a starter. His final line, 2 2/3 innings pitched, 6 earned runs, 4 walks, 2 of which came with the bases loaded. Not a great performance by him, but that's what the Reds are saddled with as far as who they have to start this year. Now, in the top of the fourth, a little bit of noise by the Cincinnati Reds. Kyle Farmer hit a home run to left field. Then top of the fifth, Jonathan India had an RBI double. So all of a sudden it's 6-3. And Christopher Sanchez's day would be done after that. He would end up with a final line of 6 innings pitched even, 3 earned runs, 7 strikeouts, which was a career high for him, and no walks allowed. So great performance and a spot start by him. the Phillies would be quiet offensively in the 4th and the 5th and the 6th. And then the top of the 7th, a sacrifice fly by Friedel scoring our old friend Jose Barrero, who walked it off against the Phillies in the final game of the previous series with Cincinnati, would make it 4-6. The Phillies' margin for error getting a little bit shorter, but a Rhys Hoskins RBI single in the 7th would make it 7-4, giving the Phillies the breathing room they needed. The Reds would score one more time in the 8th. A Lopez double to deep right would score Aquino, making it 7-5. But then in the 9th, a shutdown performance by David Robertson, getting himself to save 1 inning pitch, no earned runs, 1 K, 1 walk allowed by David Robertson. And the Phillies win 7-5. Now, the player of the game that we've got to give it to, I guess, and they gave it to on the broadcast, JT Realmuto. He was 3 for 5 with a single, a double, and a home run in this one. He also accounted for, only 1 RBI. Rhys Hoskins had 3 RBIs with 2 hits in 4 at-bats. So good work by Rhys Hoskins. He was the RBI leader. And you know how we talked about the last game? Well, there were a lot of players with 1 hit, but no Phillies player in with multiple hits, I should say. Well, last night, you had Rhys Hoskins with a multiple hit game. JT Realmuto, multi-hit game. Nick Castellanos, multi-hit game. Gene Segura, multi-hit game. Matt Vierling, multi-hit game. It was just a good work by the top bats on this team. And then you had a hit by Kyle Schwarber, a hit by Alec Bohm, a hit by Bryson Stott. Like, this offense is just, they're getting it kicking again. And when you replace Bradley Zimmer with, let's say Brandon Marsh, yeah, that would be better. When you replace, I don't know, Kyle Schwarber DH last night. So when you place Kyle Schwarber in one of the corners, and then you're essentially replacing Nick Maton with Bryce Harper, yeah, that's pretty darn good. So yeah, it was good work by an offense that's getting hot, and they have an opportunity to get even better when Bryce Harper and Brandon Marsh return back to this lineup. But it's good work by the Philadelphia Phillies. They win another one against the Cincinnati Reds. And the one thing we do need to take a look at is the bullpen struggles. So here are the pitchers that threw out of the bullpen for the Philadelphia Phillies in last night's game. Nick Nelson only went 2/3 of an inning. Gave up 2 hits, 1 run, 1 earned, 1 walk. Yeah, not ideal for him. Not the worst thing ever. Andrew Bellotti came in, pitched 1/3 of an inning, ended that inning, got everything taken care of there in the 7th. Connor Brogdon went an inning, gave up 2 hits, 1 run, 1 earned, 2 strikeouts, which is nice. But having 2 relievers give up runs, not ideal there. You want to see these guys be able to shut down and line up like the Reds, and the bullpen ERAs start rising. Nick Nelson's up to a 4.91. Andrew Bellotti's up to a 3.73. Now, Connor Brogdon's still 2.73. And David Robertson, who got the save, has been outstanding. He's at a 2.16. So it's not terrible. There have just been a couple games in a row against the Reds where the bullpen has given up a couple runs. And when you play playoff caliber teams, which you'll see them down near the end of the Phillies' schedule, a tough stretch with the Braves and the Astros and the Blue Jays in there, you're going to have to be better. Right now, you can get away with it, though. So just a little bit of a warning sign as far as what the bullpen's been doing lately. But, hey, the Phils are winning in spite of it. You look at their record, and I'm just going to go to the Phillies' schedule real quick after the win last night, and we'll talk more about the upcoming schedule and the final game against the Cincinnati Reds in tonight's contest. But let's take the Mets series out of the equation. Against teams who are not the New York Mets, the Phillies have gone, 3 wins, 4, 5 for 6, 5 for 7, 6 for 7, 8 for 7, 9 for 7, 10 for 7, 11 for 7, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Against opponents that aren't the New York Mets, the Philadelphia Phillies have gone 16-3 in those last 19 games. They can't beat the Mets, but they're beating the heck out of everybody else. It's a great spot for the Philadelphia Phillies to be in, considering they don't play the Mets the rest of the way. And what I just read off to you, it included a series with the Atlanta Braves. So they weren't all pushover teams. Phils are just a really, really good baseball team right now. They're not in that top elite tier like the Mets are and the Astros and the Yankees when they're going good and teams like that. But, man, they are really, really, really good compared to the average team in Major League Baseball, and they continue to show that day in and day out. So another great performance for the Phillies. And coming up, we're going to preview the series finale game. We'll see if we could pull off a 4-game sweep at Citizens Bank Park. Huge advantage the Phillies' way in tonight's contest. We'll talk about the pitching matchup. We'll talk about the lineups, which we don't have yet, but the possibility of the lineups and the changes that could be coming. And we'll also have a little bit of a discussion later about a certain MVP and what he's been doing in the minor leagues. All that coming up next on Locked On Phillies. Hey, it was another win last night for the Phillies, another celebration. But sometimes celebrations can go too far. When you're putting back a few drinks, sometimes a few can become a few too many. And as the evening comes to an end, you start to head out. You think of calling for a ride, and you decide now you can drive. You live nearby. What are the odds you get pulled over anyway? Well, not only could you get pulled over, your insurance could go off. You could lose your license. You could lose your job. You could total your car. The worst case, you could kill somebody else. You could kill yourself. You could ruin a life. You could ruin your own life. It's absolutely not worth it. Now, everyone knows the risk of driving drunk, and yet people still do it. The results are tragic and often deadly, and it happens every single day. Somebody makes the wrong choice. I want you to make the right choice. Be smart. Call a ride. It's why there are police officers out there constantly checking for people. People do this day in and day out. Don't think it can't be you. It absolutely could be. So if you don't drive sober, you will get pulled over. And I want everyone to be safe, happy, and healthy as the Phillies make the stretch run of playoff baseball. Don't make the dumb choice. Make the smart one. Call for a ride. Get a ride from a sober friend. Walk home. Do whatever you've got to do. But drive sober or you will get pulled over. That message brought to you by NHTSA, the National Highway Transit and Safety Administration. All right, let's look at tonight's game between the Cincinnati Reds and the Philadelphia Phillies. Again, it is the series ender. It is the 4th game of 4 games at Citizens Bank Park between these two teams. The Philadelphia Phillies have won 3 of them. So a chance for a sweep coming up here. They've already won the series. And Christopher Sanchez was a spot in the rotation. Not that he was in the rotation, but he was a spot starter to reset the rotation, give a little bit of extra rest, give a little bit of settling to some moving parts with injuries. And also, it was the first attempt to get the Phillies set up for what looks to be a playoff rotation of 3 pitchers, which are Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, Ranger Suarez, in my opinion right now. But we'll see how the Phillies set it up with off days and everything going on the rest of the way. But that's why Christopher Sanchez threw last night, was to set the rotation up more to the Phillies' liking. And tonight, well, they have a huge benefit from that. Aaron Nola will make the start for the Philadelphia Phillies, facing off against Justin Dunn of the Cincinnati Reds. Now, Aaron Nola, here's his stats this year. He's got an 8-10 record, which is not great. The Phillies are not really all that good record-wise when he pitches, but it's not his fault. He's been wonderful. A 3.25 ERA, a .96 WHIP, 157 2/3 innings pitched, and 129 hits allowed. So that WHIP, that's why it's below 1. He's only allowed 22 walks this year, so the command has been really, really good. And in 174 strikeouts, got significantly more than 1 strikeout per inning. He's given up 16 home runs, which is why the ERA is high compared to the WHIP. But hey, Aaron Nola has been arguably the best, or one of the best pitchers on this team this year. Him and Zach Wheeler have been incredible. So a ace-like caliber pitcher on the mound for the Philadelphia Phillies. And he's facing off against Justin Dunn. Now, Justin Dunn is a young right-handed pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds. 1-1 this year in the record books. A 6.08 ERA, a 1.73 WHIP, in 13 1/3 innings pitched. This guy has been in the major leagues for like a minute. He's given up 15 hits in those 13 1/3 innings. He has struck out 10. So he's got a little bit of strikeout stuff from the right side out there on the mound, but he's walked 8 in 13 1/3 innings pitched. That's nearly a walk an inning. That's not good. And 5 home runs given up as well. Well, that shows you why the ERA is at 6.08. Justin Dunn is a young pitcher who's basically had a cup of coffee at the major league level so far and has not done well in his time. So I'm not looking at any trouble at all for the Philadelphia Phillies in tonight's game as far as the offense is concerned. The matchup predictor from ESPN says that the Phillies have a 70.5% chance to win tonight, as opposed to a 29.5% chance for the Cincinnati Reds. So big time advantage to the Philadelphia Phillies. They're minus 385 on the run line. And the over-under for runs scored is 8.5. It's been a high-scoring series. I honestly might take the under in that one because I think that Dunn is going to be better than expected because of those strikeout numbers. And Aaron Nola is going to shut down the Cincinnati Reds. This could be like a 4-1 ball game tonight. And I'd be fine with that. 4-1 win I'd be fine with a 1-0 win for the Philadelphia Phillies for what it's worth. But that's what you're looking at for the Philadelphia Phillies. They've got a 69-55 record going into this one, 48-74 for the Cincinnati Reds. So a huge difference between the two. The Phils now 14 games over 500 with a chance to get to 15 games tonight. Absolutely love that. Now, we don't have the lineups yet. Let's look at some of the team stats, though, just to show you how undermanned the Cincinnati Reds are offensively in matchups with the Philadelphia Phillies. So far this year, the Phillies are batting .253 as a team, the Reds .241. The Phillies have scored 55 more runs. They have nearly 100 more hits. They have nearly 50 more home runs than the Cincinnati Reds. The OBP, 315 for the Phillies, 309 for the Reds. The slugging, 423 for the Phillies, 379 for the Reds, so just under 50 points there. The team ERAs, the Phils are at a 3.77, while the Reds are averaging over 5 runs a game given up. And the whips, well, the Phillies are 1.22, with the Reds at 1.42. Like, these are just, the Phillies blow the Reds out of the water. They've had nearly 100 less walks. The Phillies have struck out more, so that's even better. And the opposing batting average, well, the Phillies have held opposition to 238, while the Cincinnati Reds have held opposing batters to 257. So we're a little bit higher than what the Phillies average is, right on the mark, though, pretty much for each of these teams. So as expected, some fun stuff here, though. Night games, the Philadelphia Phillies are 47-36, so 11 games over 500 at night. They're not good in day games. They're great at night. That's more indicative of how their actual record shakes out. Meanwhile, the Reds are pretty equally bad regardless, but they're 20 games below 500 at night. So, hey, advantage Philadelphia Phillies, who have won 4 of their last 5. The Reds have lost 3 of their last 5, so all of this pushes in the Philadelphia Phillies direction. Listen, I say all this to say the Phillies should absolutely win this game tonight. They should focus in. They should take care of business in the series ender. And, well, all of this is leading up to the accumulation of this hot stretch. I know the Mets just happened, but I read you the stats outside of the Mets series. The Phillies are incredible. They're like 16-3 in their last 19 games against teams not named the New York Mets, and they finished the season without playing the Mets again. But it's all leading up to one thing. And coming up and stepping off, we're going to talk about the potential return of Bryce Harper and why it could be sooner than we originally thought, than even I thought. So that's stepping off. What stepping off is, it's a step outside the lines of baseball. It's baseball adjacent. So like injury returns, things that are going on at the ballpark, what's happening in the minor leagues, which is specifically what we're talking about here with Bryce Harper's minor league stint and everything like that. So stepping off is just it's a breather. It's a midweek breather. And being that it's Thursday and it's close to the middle of the week, well, it's time to step off the mound, take a deep breath, and get ready to finish off the series against the Reds tonight, and then face the Pirates for 3 more. So let's take a breather coming up next. Let's talk about happy things like we have been all day today, and we'll jump into Bryce Harper's rehab performance last night and what it could mean for his return to the Philadelphia Phillies. That coming up next as we wrap up our episode of Locked On Phillies. All right, it's time for Stepping Off, where we take a step outside the lines like I just described to you. This one is a lot more inside the lines than your average stepping off, but I wanted to devote a full segment to what Bryce Harper is doing down in the minor leagues at Lehigh Valley. Because last night, well, all he followed up his multi-home run performance in his first game down in the minor leagues with, yeah, that's right, a walk-off double. The Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs were trailing the Gwinnett Stripers by 1 in the bottom of the 9th, and Bryce Harper, with a 2-strike count on him, ripped one in the left center field gap. Center fielder for the Stripers was unable to track it down, and 2-run score. Bryce Harper mobbed by his minor league teammates out in left field, shallow left field, and you could see him kind of hiding his thumb, like saying, hey, don't jump on me, don't hurt me. I got to go help out the Major League club coming up here. But Bryce Harper has a multi-home run game. He now has a walk-off game. Like he's been as advertised, health-wise, performance-wise, everything-wise. This is as good of a rehab stint as any hitter's ever had. So what does that mean? Because yesterday I talked to you and I said, hey, slow your roll. Don't rush Bryce Harper back to face the Pirates. Let him play out his minor league stint or his rehab, go through everything. Let it go as expected. And then today we start hearing reports that Bryce Harper could join the Philadelphia Phillies as early as tomorrow night for the game with the Pittsburgh Pirates. His performance down there in the minor leagues, how he's feeling, everything the organization is hearing from him about his well-being, says that he might be ready sooner than even we expected. Now, if that doesn't happen, I've already told you, I'm perfectly fine with him taking his time down there in the minors, not rushing anything, not worrying about anything there as far as hustling back to play the Pittsburgh Pirates. But on the other hand, if he's fine, get him up here. And it sounds like he's telling the organization he's fine. And the doctors feel that he's fine. And the performance says that he's fine. And I'm pro Bryce Harper coming up when he's ready. I just want the organization to be cautious. I'm also, though, willing to, and I said this in yesterday's episode, I'm willing to defer to the organization. They handled Jean Segura's injury very well, a very similar injury earlier this year, and Jean Segura has been a major contributor since coming back to the Major League Ball Club. If they feel that Bryce Harper's in that spot where he's ready to play, let's get after it. And with the Pittsburgh Pirates coming up, it's not exactly high-level pitching he'll be seeing. It's not exactly high-leverage situations he'll be in. Now, he could be, depending on the game, but it's not a difficult opponent. It's not like it's a Mets series or a Braves series or even a Marlins series where you're playing teams that are more talented and can know you well because they're in the division. So if he can make it up for the Pittsburgh Pirates series, let's do it. But I'm going to give you the CT guarantee on this one. When the Philadelphia Phillies leave for their West Coast road trip against the Arizona Diamondbacks, which they'll travel there on Monday, and I believe the first game is Tuesday. They'll have either a day off or they'll have the travel day Sunday after their game with the Pirates and then play Monday. Either way, this Sunday will be the last day of the season that the Philadelphia Phillies will be without Bryce Harper. He's going to be back for this road trip. I guarantee you he'll be back for this road trip and he'll be ready to go. And it sounds like he could even be back sooner. So great news. We are just a couple of days away from Bryce Harper wearing red and white pinstripes again. And it's going to be awesome. Cannot wait to have the MVP back. And he seems like he's as zoned in as he's been, even when he was going hot at the major league level. Can't wait for him to put on the Phillies uniform again, whether it's the road trip or maybe sooner in the upcoming series with Pittsburgh. But that's your Bryce Harper injury update. All good news in Phillies land. It was a fun episode to do for you today, and hopefully another fun one tomorrow if the Phillies can complete a 4-game sweep, and maybe if we hear even better injury news about Bryce Harper. That's all the time I've got for you for today, though. That was stepping off, and this has been Locked On Phillies. I want to thank you one more time for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan, Sully, me and him are trying to work out a crossover time, so maybe you'll hear me over there in a crossover this weekend at some point. But he's great covering Major League Baseball and all the big storylines that go around. You can catch his show on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. That's Locked On MLB with Sully, Paul Francis Sullivan. And please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing, doing all that good stuff to Locked On Phillies. Click the alert buttons in the top so that you get all of your notifications when new episodes are posted, so you don't miss any of the big information and big reactions following this stretch run wins and losses by the Philadelphia Phillies. And we hope there's a lot more wins than losses. Looks like there will be. So lock in to Locked On Phillies, and I will talk to you all hopefully after a Phillies 4-game sweep of the Reds tomorrow.